definitely spiritual values helps with the upbringing of a child and not just a man or a boy.
For the youths to have that father figure for them to be able to follow. And it really plays a huge role in that child's development.
In terms of mentorship and having advisors, do you all see that as an ideal importance in terms of our young men, or should I say our young men growing up?
It'll have to be exemplar, all right? Someone who is actually setting a proper example based on how they live their life, but not based on words alone, but based on how they live and function in society.
Hi, I'm your host, Inky Richardson, and you're viewing our men's segment. So can you give us just a brief about yourself before we actually get started?
Sure. Good afternoon all. My name is Sean Rennie. I'm an entrepreneur in the business, like the food industry. Today I'd like to share some of my experience with the young adults and not so young adults that we could pass on some of our experience to.
I am Tyrese Clement, resides in the area of Point Fortin. A little bit of personal information is that I enjoy, playing sport and activities, fishing with my partner Aki, and I also engage in a lot of public speaking, and I, love to help others and, really bring them to Christ.
Hi, I am Aki George. I am from Point Fortin, and I look forward to having some meaningful and substantial conversations this afternoon with you guys.
Wonderful. So the first question I have here, what does being a man means to you?
Okay, so being a man, it really means, the transition from teenager to, adulthood, right, manhood. I think it means being able to provide, and not only financially, but to provide my time and my support, towards my family and stuff. And a familiar term me that say, men say in a very egotistic and prideful way, is that, I am the man in the house, because I bring in the money and I provide it. And I think manhood is a little bit more than that it goes in a little bit of details in terms of providing support and guidance to your family and to the youths that are coming up to manhood as well.
A man, financially, men have been known and deemed to be the providers for many years. And even back then, historical times, you would see men being the ones going out and hunt and bring food for their family and that kind of thing. So now we would have seen that change into more of a financial one, where men are responsible for providing for the family from a financial standpoint.
That's well said. I heard one of you all talking about responsibility, right? So in terms of responsibility, what are the factors that demonstrates responsibility in a man? Like, what are the factors? Can any one of you call it out?
Okay, so in terms of the factors, as I mentioned before, I think being able to properly manage his life and have a balance with respect to work and leisure time. Because in many instances, if you have a family, then you wouldn't be going out online with your friends every night and you're coming home late to see your children sleeping and you're doing the same thing, consecutively during the week. I think there must be an established balance in a man's life, and I think that is a major factor. So that while you have work, because you have to provide for your family, you should be able to carry out your family, on the beach on a Sunday, carry them to watch a movie, fun station or something, so that you could actually build your family while still providing. I think that's one of the major factors that aids in a man being responsible.
I love the way you said that. I agree. In terms of spiritual values, does that plays a role in the development of manhood? Do you think that plays a role?
Definitely, yes. It's not a standalone value, but definitely, yes. Together with, again, your moral, ethical, and religious values. However, in present time, you find that there are particular practices whereby spiritualism is separated from religion and from moral values and ethical values. In my humble opinion, yes, definitely spiritual values helps with the upbringing of a child and not just a man or a boy. It actually helps adults as well. So definitely, yes, spiritual value goes quite a long, long way.
In terms of confidence, right? Do you think, like, we often hear about women being confident and all this stuff. Does that also apply to men? And if it does, how can one's confidence be built in terms of manhood? Or should I say in our young men? Aki, I believe you have the answer to this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think confidence is very, very important. And I think that this confidence only comes about by one knowing that they actually have the ability and capability to do and function effectively. In physical, the other being mental, social, and financial. And in order to be confident physically as a man, you would have to be doing the things that would make you physically healthy, which is by eating properly, getting enough sleep, taking care of your body, and that kind of thing. So, you're confident that you're physically healthy. You're confident that, you could go there and be able to execute your functions properly. In terms of mental health, the same things apply in terms of maintaining a healthy mental. Eating, getting sleep, exercise also for persons who may be challenged with mental health issues, seeking attention, help is very, very important. First acknowledging that the problem exists and seeking help to make sure that you're in a healthy mental position. Because your mental health automatically influences the people that you are around. It influences your family, and at some point in time as a man, maybe you have a spouse or children that you would have to influence, and you'd want to be healthy in those areas. Also your financial and your social area. So I'll say confidence is by you actually putting in the work, knowing that you are capable of being effective, and that is what would build your confidence.
Right, and I would just like to add with the previous question that was mentioned with values. I think, the way that society view men, right, is that, if you have real girls and thing, then you're real confident and, you're out there, right? You're a real G, you get through, you're a wet man, player and thing, Men does tend to want to be that now because in their eyes, that what confidence is and that what confidence brings, right? But more than that, I think confidence comes from the values, the spiritual values of a man knowing who he is and knowing what God sees him as. And because of that, he become confident in the fact that, God is directing his steps and that he is valued by God. And once you walk in that direction, then you wouldn't really be influenced by the other things that are going on in society. And I think that is a very crucial role, because with confidence it comes the values that men supposed to aspire to be like faithfulness, being loyal to your spouse, and that really is being confident, being confident to the fact that yes, we may make mistakes at times, yes, we may not be perfect, but we are aspiring to be, like Christ, to be like God each day. And I think that is where the root of all confidence comes from.
Well said. I was going to add something to that, but sorry, I have nothing else to say. Advise our young men out there. How would you all handle stress?
One of my habits is running, exercise. So I tend to use that as one of the ways to deal with stress. There are others might totally disagree with what I said, and they might use alcohol. They may resort to drugs. They may resort to maybe speaking to someone else about what's going on. But me personally, I'm a sort of guy, I might keep that energy there pent up and put on my running shoes and start running. So there are quite a few ways you could deal with stress, and that's just the one that I choose. Others may look towards the green bottle or something clear, or but mine is I run in shoes and get out.
There's a young man, he come up to you and I don't know how to do this. I often beat her, I often drink. This is how I handle my stress. How would you advise that young man out there or any other young man to handle stress?
And I like the point that he mentioned there because, the popular stress reliever that many persons tend to gravitate towards is alcohol. And the cannabis and stuff. After the alcohol leaves your body, the stress comes back, right? So clearly that is not a long-term reliever of stress. So if somebody comes to me and they are stressed and I am not able to provide the adequate information, I would direct them towards a professional who are skilled in that area. But in terms of me and how I handle stress is that I call one of my partner who I trust. For instance, I could call Aki with certain things, and we are able to talk about it, and that I will be able to gain information that I could apply in my life to really help me relieve stress. And I do a lot of running as well, and that really helps, and that's why I like that point, because exercise is really a stress reliever. And listening to positive music, and also I tend to read. When I stress, I tend to read different books, self-help books, and it really opens up my mind and helps me to be relaxed while I'm stressed.
So you all can take notes. If I was you, I would have a paper and a pen. So we're moving on to the next question. So in terms of violence, what advice would you have, or should I say, how would you advise our young men, or should I say any other men who are struggling in the area of violence? This could be from background, how they grew up. We could call all those factors in mind due to influence, association, what they learn from this or that or the other. So what would you advise them?
I think I would probably take a similar approach. If someone come to me with that issue, while I could also provide some advice from a non-professional standpoint, I would say it helps to be productive. Get involved in some type of thing to distract yourself, so that whether it be a goal or a vision or something to work towards, and I think that could be very, very helpful, so that you wouldn't have all the time or on your hands to engage in violent activities.
On the topic of violence, I think that has taken root in a lot of the younger minds in Trinidad and Tobago, and maybe not just Trinidad, but a lot of other countries that are of similar demographics. One of the ultimate consequences, of course, is death. So my advice definitely is violence should never be one of the solutions to anything, whether it be stress, whether it be some sort of financial issues, family relations, friendship. Violence is a no-no. It's definitely never is supposed to be an option. So unless you're ready to die, because in the present environment that we have in Trinidad and Tobago at the time, at this moment, is you shoot and the cops will shoot back. And I think we know who usually ends up on the wrong end is the young guys. So definitely violence is not an issue. It is never supposed to be seen as some sort of resolution.
I think the real solution to that is to educate the youth, because with education, it influences behavior. So once they are educated about the harmful effects of violence, and while I mention all that, we must not be naive of the fact that, when you're real mad and you're angry, you just want to do anything, right? Anything. And is the point of actually being able to stay calm in the situation. Because when you are angry, you would do all sorts of things, and in hindsight, you would regret afterwards, and you might ask yourself, how come I end up doing that, It's because you was in the situation and you allowed the situation to get the best of you. So my advice would be to, stay calm in the situation. It might not be easy, but, remain calm and really think. Because if we really be rational in the situation, then we would be able to make a better decision.
I was recently I was talking to a young man, right? And he was just mentioning to me, in relation to his father. He didn't have that close relationship with his father, so he was like looking at in terms of who will guide me, who will give me this advice, who should I look up to when it is I'm dealing with this situation or that situation, right? So for our young men who grew up without a father, without that type of guidance, mentorship and advisors, they are very important and they do play a role in their development in the long term as well. So what advice would you have for these young men? Is that the end for them? Should they just lean to any and anybody? What advice would you have to share with them?
Okay, so the first thing I'd like to say is that having a father figure in the home is a huge advantage. And in the cases where youths have not grown up with that significant person in their home, many of them would tend to, seek that same father figure from probably someone in the street, who live in the same area. And that person might sometimes, in most cases, have a, negative influence on them, and you would find that many of them might join gangs, or, because of that, absence of the father in the home, many of them might end up, committing crime and stuff because they didn't really have that person to follow. It's so important for the youths to have that father figure for them to be able to follow. And it really plays a huge role in that child's development because they are able to guide them because, the father is really supposed to be the head of the home. And when the head of the home is absent, it means that the youth will have a lot of, problems and challenges in terms of being guided. But there are cases where they are able to, still succeed. They are able to have a genuine ability to learn and to become better. And so there is hope. So for the youths that don't have a father figure in their home, there is hope. But it's up to you to decide your future. It's up to you to decide, what you want to do with your life. And, forget about what's going on in the streets. Forget about the drugs and the crime and stuff. And, just try to become better while you have a absent father in the home.
In terms of mentorship and having advisors, do you see that as an ideal importance in terms of our young men, or should I say our young men growing up? Oh, that's not necessary. We don't really need that. We know we have it all under control. We can handle this thing for ourselves, We need mentors for.
That's a very important question. When I was younger, childhood boy, I may not have called it that way. I may not have said, Tyrus is my mentor, But on reflection, I realized that I did have quite a few, not just one, because I had an elder brother as well. So, and I also were in a lot of social groups. And not knowing what was taking place, that I had multiple mentors without knowing that I did. So we have proper labeling now, but in the past, everybody knew what to do. You have friends, different groups, whether it be Cub Scout, it could be a sporting team, whether it be football, cricket, running, as the case may be basketball. All these different groupings help us grow as a man, take us from boyhood to manhood. Then we have the school system, then there's the spiritual side of things. So it's a basket that helps grows a child, and not just a man, a child in the right way. So definitely we have been exposed to different mentors without knowing it as a child.
And I would just also want to add a few things with him there, and I agree so much with it, right? And I think it was well said. In my opinion, I think everyone has a mentor, whether they want to believe it or not. Because for the youths, they always have someone they look up to and want to be like. And is influenced by, the person that they listen to. Because in their mind, without they knowing it, that is their mentor, right? That is the person that they look up to and want to be like and want to follow because, they see in that, these persons have big gold chains, they have all nice Jordan shoes and they flaunting their money and stuff, and they say, yeah, that is what I want for my life, right? And you see, that is the kind of mentorship that, that is out there, but there's also the good mentors as Sean was mentioning there, because once we have a good mentor, then we are able to, ask them for advice. And I think that is a major thing that mentors provides, advice, so that we would be able to be guided and led in the right path. And I think that is why mentors are very, very important. And
As we're touching on the topic of mentorship, right? You know that there are some young men who may look onto someone, how should I say, maybe a gang leader. They may see that as mentorship, right? So in terms of that, right, we want to touch on good mentorship because we want to be able to differentiate, for them, what is good mentorship and what is bad mentorship.
All right, so I think in choosing a mentor, the person will have to be exemplar. All right, someone who is actually setting a proper example based on how they live their life, but not based on words alone, but based on how they live and function in society. And we all know, well, not everyone might know, but based on the consequences that you are eligible to face for certain actions, you could be able to differentiate between mentors and be able to differentiate who you would want to follow and who you would want to be like, right? And as a choice is up to it depends on what you want to be in society, right? And by knowing that, you would be able to select someone who you would want to be your mentor, right? Someone who is actually setting the example and functioning on the path that you aspire to follow, or the person that you aspire, or the type of personality that you aspire to have. Right?
Point there that technology has made it so expansive for us to have. I read a lot of his books, and I was really guided by his steps as well. So there are many persons out there that we could look to for.
Mm-hmm. So we touch on mentorship, but however, we know that they are the ones who have to be the one willing to learn, right? So how can they position themselves for that type of mentorship? Because someone could come to them, giving them advice, and whatsoever. However, they have to be the one to be willing. Do you all agree? So how can they position themselves for that type of mentorship to grow, to learn?
Okay, so firstly, you need to show, that person needs to show that they are actually interested in wanting to be a better person. And I think once someone observes that and actually see that you have that level of interest in being better, who would oppose or reject helping you, right? In addition to that, while you are actually being mentored by the person, and you would have gained experience and going through the development process, it is also important to have that mindset of continuous learning, because sometimes ego tends to step in, and you develop the thinking that you're rich, and that could be very, very, very what I should say, non-beneficial if you develop that kind of mindset. So the idea is to have a mindset where you are continuously learning, continuously striving to be the best version of yourself, and showing utmost respect for the mentor.
Okay, so this was part 1 on our men's segment. So we want to thank each and every one of you for sharing these points, and I know that was beneficial to all our young men out there. So I want to thank Sean, I want to thank Tyrese, I want to thank Aki for sharing these points, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Association important, by the way, to start off with?
Yes, hugely important. Show me your friends, show you who you are, and words of development together.
Men don't cry, right? I mean, when you say that lack of expression, will that mean to relationship issues?
Being married and having children, they will be looking up to you for that form of guidance and that kind of thing. And you need to have something to avoid to them, understand feelings. Yeah, and
How can they understand them?